Most people don't know your goals and they don't care. So why would you let those people shape your life? Hey, what's up? I'm Nick. Future Nick owns a multi-$100 million business that is built on helping the next generation of leaders and entrepreneurs pursue their purpose, chase their dreams, scale their passion. Current Nick is just putting in the reps to help them get there and documenting the process along the way. Today, I would like to talk to you about community. I've made this series of videos talking about the foundation of the company that I want to build and the 3 pillars that it stands on. That foundation is faith. The pillars are sovereignty, vocation, and community. If you're interested in my rants talking about those, you can check out that video. Today is all about community. I think that when we have these words like sovereignty, vocation, and community, but don't actually talk about them and define them, they don't really do anything good for us. They don't really impact our lives in any meaningful way. They don't influence the actions that we take to get to the outcome. So that's what I'm doing today. I think that community is more than just a feel-good word. I think it really comes down to who are you climbing the mountain with. In my video on vocation, I talk about the 3 layers of vocation, which is basically a climb towards heaven, a climb towards your state of life, whether that be your marriage or your priesthood or something like that. And then finally, your personal climb, your occupation or that personal vocation that you have. And community is all about who are you climbing the mountain with? So if I feel as if the Lord is calling me to climb a really, really big mountain, it makes sense that He wouldn't call me to climb that mountain alone. Luckily, I'm blessed with my wife. I have an awesome family, but beyond that, truthfully, I don't really have a big community. Part of the reason I'm filming all of this is to grow that community, to find like-minded individuals who want to build something worth building. And to be clear, I don't think that people who are climbing other mountains are wrong. I don't think that there's anything wrong with them, and I think that that's beautiful as long as they're climbing the mountain and not just sitting at the base of the mountain being wimps. I think that most people in my life are climbing vastly different mountains, and for whatever reason, I'm a special snowflake, and I'm climbing a different mountain. And because I'm climbing a different mountain, I need to climb it with different people. I feel very strongly about this because I feel like most of us throughout our entire lives, we kind of just are lumped into different characteristics, or we're ascribed different labels, but nobody actually takes the time to put that into context or to set that expectation up front. For instance, you think about going to school and the teacher, their expectation and their mountain might be to have the largest percentage of their class pass the end of course exam or the EOC. The student, their expectation is to learn life skills. Imagine that. Instead of learning those life skills though, they learn how to memorize, they learn how to get tests, they learn how to sit down for 8 hours a day and be told what to do. I feel like people don't need to be told what to do all the time. I feel like they need to find their purpose, their passion, their vocation, and they need to walk towards that vocation with other like-minded individuals. Another example of this, maybe a little bit more extreme, is who you get married to. So if you get married and then 4 years into your marriage you discover that your partner or your spouse doesn't want kids, that's kind of a big deal. And most people clear that expectation up front before they join in community, before they join in matrimony and start climbing the mountain of their vocation together. So assumed alignment is kind of just wild, but we do it all the time. And I think one of the reasons is because it's just easy. I think that Satan and the powers of evil are very much at war with us. And it's very easy to just like relax and to be lazy and to just assume that everyone else has your best interest. But the person that you were in PE with doesn't have to be your best friend for life, especially if they're climbing a different mountain. And same goes for you. Don't drag somebody up your mountain just because it's your mountain. I've really had to realize that, and as a result of that, I wouldn't say I've lost a lot of friends, but I've intentionally not spent as much time with a lot of people because one, and listen, I know this sounds transactional, I'll get to that in a little bit, but one, they don't necessarily help me attain my goals. 2, I don't think that they make me become a better person. They don't help me climb the mountain, so to speak. They don't help me grow in virtue or grow towards the universal call to holiness. They don't help me learn things. They don't help me grow. I just float down the river with them. 3, I think they cost more energy than I realized for a lot of my life. Texting somebody, even though it might take 5-10 minutes, having that bandwidth taken up in my brain. Maybe you guys are different. Maybe I was about to say a word that I probably shouldn't say on the internet. Maybe I'm just not that intelligent. When I have so many people in my mind that I'm trying to keep up with in terms of relationships and in terms of every single little detail, like what did you eat for lunch and what did you do this, and blah, blah, blah. I feel like I end up bogging down myself, and I only have 168 hours in the week, and I only have a very limited number of boxes in my brain that I can put those hours and put that energy into. I know energy is kind of an amorphous word, but hopefully we understand the same thing. When I say energy, I'm talking about just the cognitive load, the mental bandwidth that it takes up. So assumed alignment is dangerous. Period. That's not to say that you should just cut everyone out of your life, but you probably should take inventory of your life. Before we go any further, I'd like to define community in a way that is a little bit more articulate. I post all of this stuff on my Facebook page, these big, long essays basically, because it gives me a chance to take the things that I've been thinking about for days and months and years and praying about extensively, and I get to write them. And then I get to beat them up and write them again, and I get to practice my writing. I practice my copy for business skills and stuff like that, but also it helps me really articulate what I believe, and it forces me to look at my life and see if I'm acting in a way that I believe, because if I'm acting in a way contrary to what I believe, that makes me a liar. And I found out recently doing this exercise that I'm a pretty big liar. So I'd like to change that, and I'd like to remind myself as often as possible, what are the things that I like to believe? So let me pull that up real quick. Again, I have other videos where I talk about these other terms that I consider my foundation and my pillars. This one is, I'm just gonna get right into it. Faith is action despite not seeing the outcome. Sovereignty is owning the responsibility of the outcome. Vocation is the outcome itself. Community is who you get there with. I'm faithfully Catholic, so I deeply believe in the supernatural union between all the baptized, forming a single unified body of the church. Like threads woven into a single blanket, if I pull one strand, the entire fabric shifts. If it shifts the wrong way, that's sin. And it doesn't just affect me, it unravels others too. Likewise, if someone else sins, it affects me. Just how one person's virtue can ripple outward, building cathedrals, so can one sin tear them down. Just ask St. Francis of Assisi. Community can very well be summed up by the mystical body of Christ, that shared union born from baptism, lived out through the teachings of Christ and his church. Pope Pius XII writes extensively on this. But to make it actionable, community is a group of people communicating with one another in pursuit of a shared interest. Usually, it's mutually beneficial, but not always. See the occult. It can be built around geography, it can be school or work, it can be faith or a skill or a mission. Whenever the case, the sum of the whole is greater than its parts. 1 + 1 = 11. The issue is many communities never define their shared interest. They missed the communication part. I skipped a lot there, those posts are really long. That is kind of my thoughts on why I think this is so important. I think that so many of us, I live in a town in Southwest Louisiana, we preach community all the time, but our only shared interest is the fact that we are physically close to each other on a geographical space and a map. I think if we as a whole, maybe we clearly define what the community is and where we're going and what the mission is, that shared interest is what actually links us. Imagine if you got to school, everyone in your school said, our mission is to teach you the life skills to set you up to raise a family, to build your business, or to get a high-paying job, or to provide some value into the world as a unique human being. Imagine if they had that conversation with you and the curriculum was built around that, and you, as a free individual, as a sovereign individual, ascribed and appreciated that, agreed upon that, and then together, that community, that actual community that agreed to a shared interest, kept taking steps forward. How much further along would that school be? I can tell you probably super further along, because they have private schools and different boarding schools that do that, and wildly successful individuals come from them. So for the purpose of Redwater, which is the kind of the name that I'm giving to this whole business, it comes from my last name, it's French, whatever. I use Redwater to describe this future project. For the purpose of Redwater, the shared vision, this community is built around sovereignty, vocation, and community, around helping each other accomplish these goals, to learn these skills, to acquire a genuine, deeper freedom than just being free in the sense of the United States, but to have the true freedom, the sovereignty to do the things that you love, to help the people that you want to help, to do that out of a spirit of selflessness and giving. I know when people throw out the word selfless, it's like, but like you also want things too. Like, yes, of course I want things. I want to run a multi-$100 million business. I just don't think that being selfless has to be a win-lose situation. I think that you can have a win-win situation. When you pour out, usually you get more poured into you. And like I mentioned earlier, a lot of people might look at this and be like, you're super transactional and blah, blah, blah. And what kind of Catholic are you? Have you ever heard of agape love? And yes, I have. I think that the relationships that you have with people and the community you build is separate from that agape love. So first off, how many people in your life would you actually spend time with if there wasn't any sort of shared benefit, whether that's where you stay at or a shared hobby or who you sit next to at class? In the past 3 months, I have disappeared from a lot of social settings and I haven't reached out to people. Many people who preach this agape love and they talk about all these friends and you shouldn't have transactional friends. All of these people who swore that they were my friends kind of disappeared. It happened at a time when my wife and I found out that we were pregnant, and it felt like the whole world was against us, and it was hard. And I don't think there's anything wrong with those people. I think that we don't have a shared interest, and we don't have a shared goal, and I put way too much expectation on all of those people. Because the Lord has an infinite capacity to love you unconditionally, and to spend time with you relationally unconditionally. We do not. I do not. Maybe you do. So when I talk about transactional relationship or being around people who make you better and growing closer and climbing the mountaintop with specific people, it's not because you should disregard other people and distrust them or dislike them. But I mean, quite frankly, don't get advice from people who haven't been where you want to go or who haven't done what you want to do. And again, there's a fine line there because I know many priests who give awesome relationship advice and they're not married. So there's some nuance there, and this isn't a video about that, but I want to touch on the fact that loving somebody unconditionally and spending time with them indefinitely are two totally different things. You can remove a relationship and still unconditionally love that person and want the best for them. We just don't have the capacity to do that for every single human. And that's why I think defining your shared interests and defining the mountaintop that you want to climb is so important. So by having a community and working together, I might have the skills, I might develop the skills to get me to a multi-$100 million business. Along the way, I might help hundreds or thousands of people become millionaires. And even if not, to obtain some level of financial freedom or security to take care of their family, to provide a space, a physical space where you can come in and share like-minded thoughts. You can be around like-minded people. You can learn skills that set you up for the remainder of your life, that set your family up. And I'm not just talking monetary, maybe you learn how to grow a garden or shoot a gun, or you learn how to work out and you live an extra 10 or 15 years because you're healthy and you don't die of cardiovascular disease. I think that having a community, having a group of people who are willing to climb the mountain with you is so powerful and so underrated. We saw that with COVID, with suicide rates shooting through the roof, and that breaks my heart. This conversation, this documentation is my attempt to do something about it. I won't follow people down a slope that I wasn't made to go down. I won't drag people up a mountain that they weren't meant to climb. I will climb, and I will keep climbing, and I will look left and right and see who's climbing with me, because those are my people. That is my community. Define your mountaintop, love people unconditionally, but only follow those worth following. If any of this resonated with you, you're probably one of us. I invite you to follow along and see what we build. Thanks for watching.